Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is a special edition of Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And we welcome to the program today the only person in the state who has number 1 on their license plate, the governor of the great state of Nevada, Kenny Guinn. Welcome, Governor.
Hi, Sam. It's great to be here. How you doing, Ray?
Good.
And we're here with Ray Hagar from the Reno Gazette-Journal, and obviously the topic today is the State of the State budget address. Let me ask you first, did the First Lady approve and appreciate your speech?
Yeah, she was a little shocked. I really didn't tell her that I was going to have that in there, but she's been right with me there all the time, and she's worked very hard for, you know, women's health and children's care, and certainly in some of the historic things that she's done in helping UNR and the museum organizations and Sarah Winnemucca programs and Mama Van. So she's done great, and I wanted to acknowledge her since it was going to be our last opportunity.
Well, I wanted to bring that up because I thought that would probably be the most positive response you got to the speech, because it seems like whichever direction you went in at the legislature, everybody had something bad to say about it. Were you surprised?
No, not really. That's really the job of a governor, is to work and involve a lot of people, get input, take a look at all the money, and then you have to put together a 3-volume budget with everything laid out, and it's prone to second guessing, and it's prone to support in some areas. And so when you have 63 different legislators that are sitting there, some new, some experienced, they have different philosophies, and I haven't seen it that any different than the last 40 years I've been kind of being involved with the legislative process. It's very common. And then as they get to know more about it, they start understanding how it fits in and how the total program goes, because you get it all at once, and it's really unfair to everybody, actually, even to the governor, because you can't go back and give any detailed explanation.
Well, Governor, one of the things that had a tepid response, especially with Democrats, was your plan to put $300 million back in taxpayers' pockets through the vehicle rebate. Critics say they see an inherent unfairness with this, whereas people with expensive cars, boats, RVs, they get money back, but people that drive old clunkers or have to take the bus, they don't get jack. So what's
Well, we were trying to say as best we could, and there is no fair system. We looked at property tax rebate for a long time, but then you have the thousands and thousands of people who live in apartment houses. How do you get the money back to them? We looked at giving every Nevadan a check back, but there's no mechanism in the state to say who lives in Nevada. You can't find out. And do you give it to someone who just got here yesterday from LA or from New York? So we went through a number of projects. We looked at a tax holiday, which worked, by the way, quite well in a couple of other states, such as back in the East. And we looked at that as a going back to school shopping day, so that people, when they would go back to buy the school clothes, could take advantage of that and have no taxes paid. But when you look at that, about 70% of what we gain from the out-of-state people, and they would come here on a 3-day holiday, and what they buy, they don't pay. And so we finally came down to the best way, and there's never a good way to give it back, was through the car registration.
How do you address the poor factor here where...
Well, everybody that has a car that registers, the minimum that you pay is $33. Everybody pays $33 to register a car. If the car's 10 years or older, then you only pay $6 to register. So that comes out to be $39. So everybody that registered something would get back at least $39. But that's what they paid in. So we're not trying to redistribute the wealth to say to somebody else if you had a newer car. But we did cap it at $300 because of many people who have, like somebody uses the Hummer. Well, the Hummer, if you buy a Hummer, you probably pay $800 or $900. You buy a Mercedes-Benz, you may pay $1,000 or more for registration. So we cap that at $300. And what takes place in something like this is that's where you can get the money to the most of the people. Now, you'll have some people will say to you, well, some people don't have a car. They ride buses, transit systems. Well, but in fairness, the transit system, and I'm not trying to defend it, but it's subsidized by thousands and thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money. So it was the best way we can do this, in my opinion. The way it came about actually is we've had a windfall from economics. It has not been so much from the tax increase. That broadened our base and stabilized it just like everybody wanted it to. Even though it wasn't my plan, it still turned out good in that respect. What we've had is a phenomenal growth, more than I've ever seen in my 40 years of watching budgets in this state. And it's been built up into this surplus that's more than $300 million. But I thought it should be shared with the people, because I thought it would help our economy, and I thought the people who would get it back would know how best to spend it. And we still did more funding this year in this budget, as you heard in the State of the State. On that given night, we spent $1.4 billion of new money for kids, health care, seniors, security for this state, all the things that we all want, and we did it by still sharing, with the potential of sharing with the taxpayers.
Okay, let's take a break. We have lots more with the governor coming up. He's here for the whole show right after this on Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Where do I want to go? Me? Denver.
Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere? Minneapolis. St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, non-stop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport, dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
If it's hot, it's here at the Pepper Mill. The Pepper Mill has over 500 of the hottest video theme slots. And with the $100,000 Winter Video Theme Slot Fest, there's no smarter time to play these winning machines. Win your share of the money with $2,000 random cash giveaways every Monday and $5,000 drawings every Friday. And new players can get up to $100 free play.
The slots that rock are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you winning?
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment. And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we return to our conversation here with the governor of the great state of Nevada, Kenny Guinn. Governor, when Arnold Schwarzenegger gave his State of the State speech, he came out with concrete plans and told the legislature in California that if they didn't approve them, he would go to the people and he would get the people to pass the plans. With the property tax initiative, you talked about a lively debate. Why didn't you come up with a concrete plan?
Well, there's already a number of plans that's been introduced in the legislative session. And for me, with about 4 or 5 people in the governor's office, you can't take on the budgeting process that we have to take on that's full-time, round the clock almost, for a number of months, and then take on something as complex as this. I know that it needs to be discussed, and I know that if you really look at the law, there is every city and every county where this is happening, they have the right under the law to reduce the tax base with no action from the legislative body. They just can't raise it above the $3.64. But I have said, look, this needs to have open debate because it involves tremendously the school districts, the cities, and the counties. And so why should a person like an elected officer at the governor's level say, I know what's best for you? I know that there's only about 4 or 5 areas that you can go into, and those should be debated, and we should pick the best and the fairest, because you can't go in there and pick one that fits all, because what's going to happen for Clark County is not going to work well in Eureka or work well in Lincoln County, and you have to pull all those people together. And I'll tell you what, I think I'm smart enough not to sit down there and say, here's my plan. I do believe this, and I have said the other day, that if we don't get a plan to control this exceeding rates that are going up for the home buyers or for the home single-family homeowners and for the business owners, then I will become more active and more aggressive as the session moves on. But I believe these people can do it. And if they don't do it, which I think they will, in all fairness to them, I think there will be initiative petitions. That's what I think.
Well, Governor,
you know what, though, and I have to bring this up because you've heard the same things I have. People question your leadership. They're saying that you're not being a leader on this. You're just throwing it off to the legislature and having them deal with it.
I've been a leader in some of the most major issues that the state's faced in my 40 years around. Was it leadership when we privatized workers' compensation? That's only been done in Nevada. That's allowed us to be more competitive than Arnold Schwarzenegger will ever be in California for business development. How about the new programs that we've developed for Senior RX and the Millennium Scholars? Those are all leaderships. And in my program this time, I talked about some very important elements that are far-reaching. Everything I've tried to do is not to go from legislature to legislature. Think of the terrible shape we'd be in right now. Overall, even with this surplus, what would happen to us if we had not changed our revenues and broadened those streams and stabilized them? That is leadership. I don't know of anyone in the last 20 years who took on that problem in the nature that we did and in the seriousness of it. So some people's leadership, who is that? I'd like to debate them. And I think I had good leadership the other night, but you can see you can't lead some people and other people you can. But I don't take that as a hit. That's what a governor gets. You're only one person. If I said we should give back $300 million, I've had some people say it's not near enough, you should give it all back. And other people are saying it's too much to give back. When we give 2% raises, some people say it's too much and other people say it's not enough. I understand that, so we debate it, and that's why we have the system of government we have to go to the legislature. They have the votes. I only have recommendation power. And I assure you that something good will come out of this in some give and take, one way or the other. Okay. But it's not a lack of leadership. I guarantee you that.
Governor, getting back to this vehicle rebate, if you did not give some of this tax surplus money back, did you fear a taxpayer revolt in Nevada?
Absolutely, I would say that to anybody. I've said that to both Democrats and Republicans in the legislature, and they better pay attention to it. Let me explain quickly why I think this is necessary. 2 years ago, when I said we were in trouble, our new money category, after we paid for what we were just paying for, took our money that came in and paid just what we were doing for that year, we only had $24.6 million of new money to spend on supplying 27,000 kids with teachers, books, and all the other things of the growth. By changing and stabilizing and diversifying this revenue stream and the great economy, which was very important to us. It won't happen again, but I think this 2 years it did. Our new money was $1.7 billion. And I am not going to sit there and say that the taxpayers cannot participate in this in some form. Maybe my recommendation isn't the right one, they can change it. The important thing is in the final analysis, get the money, some of this money, back to the people. Because we spent the other night, outside of the $300 million, we spent $1.4 million. And you know what? I named everything in the booklet. It's all laid out item by item so that everybody can see. And we have those booklets published. We hand them to everybody. And I've looked at this, and about 80% of that plus cannot be changed because it's required by law. So you can only go over there and play with about between 12 and 20% maybe. And I'm willing to have them lay that out, and just like the other day, they said, how'd this $10 million get in here? Why would you put $10 million in here? Well, you passed a law 2 years ago that required that $10 million to be in there. So let's make sure that when you do a state of the state, if it came out and everybody agreed to it, there's something terribly wrong with it.
And let's take a break on that note. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with the governor after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
Siegfried and Roy presents Darren Romeo.
There's magic in his voice, and there's music in his magic.
Brilliant young talent like this is very rare.
The music of the night.
I'm Darren Romeo.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. Wow. Fantastic.
Dinner and show package from $27.95. Call the Eldorado at 786-5700.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. And escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Governor, you've come, and welcome back to the, we just continue the conversation when you were watching commercials here. Governor Kenny Guinn is with us today, along with Ray Hagar from the Reno Gazette-Journal. The Millennium Scholarships, you want to put together bonding to put the scholarships back on track. Some people are saying that they would rather see you use cash to do that rather than the bonding. And also I wanted to ask you, what percentage of Millennium Scholars have graduated and what percentage have dropped out so far, if you have those numbers?
Well, there's a couple answers. First of all, the retention rate. We had our first graduating class this last year from 5 years ago. Right now, when we first started, we thought we'd have about 40% of the kids take us up on it. This last year is about 74%. And each year, the retention rate of kids staying in, and I think UNR is up around 76 or 77%, which is phenomenal for retention for kids going to school, no matter whether they got a scholarship or not. And UNLV was a little below that when they first started in the 60s, but they're now in the 70s. So the program is extremely successful. As far as funding it, when I first started putting the budget together, we didn't have all this extra money. It came in almost like the last week that we had it, and you can't go back and change volumes and volumes. There certainly is other opportunities if people want to look at it and change their mind. I think I'm right on $300 million. If they said we're going to take $100 million put over there, then we'll have to see how that works out. But they have the authority to do that. But I felt that the people of Nevada, just 2 years before, they voted overwhelmingly for $200 million in bonds to do the wetlands, to do some parks, to build a museum. And I thought, certainly these people would be willing to step up with a $100 million bond spread out to really save the Millennium Scholarship for years to come, and I believe that they would. Now, if there's a better way to do it, once we have all the data and we switch and things are changing, I'm not going to object. What I want is the Millennium Scholarship to continue to be funded, one way or the other.
Governor, if that's funded out of the surplus, does that essentially kill your tax or your vehicle rebate plan?
Well, if they funded it, it would be $100 million, and you'd have to drop it to 200. And so, you know, I'm gonna fight for the way it is, because I believe that we don't change the rules by some of these legislators by saying, oh, this will cost interest. Well, every year that I've looked at the budget over all these years, there is anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 million dollars in that budget that they bond that goes to pay maintenance cost, and you shouldn't pay maintenance and operation cost out of a bond issue, but they've done it. When it comes to kids, now it's different. Now, if you've got more money, let's go to the table and talk about it, because no governor can present a perfect budget. I presented one for education for the $100 million. Listen, we have 122 failing schools. My job is to say, let's pay attention to these schools and what we're going to do for them, because eventually the federal government will say you got to shut them down. And that can't not happen in this state. And it's not going to happen under my watch. So I'm putting these things out there, and I'm going to fight for everything that's in there. I just don't have a vote. But when it comes out, I'm going to be fighting to get some money back to the people, because we have adequate funds of $1.4 billion. And I haven't heard the people of Nevada in all my 6 years here say to me, well, no matter how much money you get, just spend it the way you want to. I think it's important. And I've said to some people, when they said, what are you going to do with this money? I said, I'll tell you one thing. I didn't run with the bad news I've had for 6 years that I've been here, restructuring everything, privatizing, cutting back, reducing staff. I didn't run from that. And I'm not going to run from the good times when we can make up some of that lost ground for the children of this state, for the senior citizens of this state, and for the mentally ill and the ill. I think we've got a great program here. Now, I know it's going to get massaged. I'm all for that. No one person can be right. On top of all this, I think we'll settle the issue, and if we don't, there will be strong measures taken to make sure that the rates on people's single-family homes and their business do not exceed a reasonable amount of money for taxes.
Governor, Jim Gibbons, Congressman Jim Gibbons, who is starting a campaign for governor, recently on national TV said that people who didn't support corporate contributions for the inauguration were obviously must be communists. Now, do you think this remark will hurt him in any way when he runs for your job when you term out in '06?
Well, it's really too early for me to tell, and I haven't seen all the details, so I don't want to take a position. I always want to take a position after I've talked to the other person.
Would you ever say anything like that?
Well, I think it's, no matter how it came out, it's a very strong statement if that's exactly the full statement without any prelude to it or follow-up to it. So I really don't know, but I normally don't take stands like that.
Okay, and we'll use this moment to take a pause. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with the governor after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
If it's hot, it's here at the Pepper Mill. The Pepper Mill has over 500 of the hottest video theme slots. And with the $100,000 Winter Video Theme Slot Fest, there's no smarter time to play these winning machines. Win your share of the money with $2,000 random cash giveaways every Monday and $5,000 drawings every Friday. And new players can get up to $100 free play.
The slots that rock are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you winning?
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers with the governor of the great state of Nevada, Kenny Guinn. Let's go back to the State of the State speech here. A couple of the biggest howls were heard when you said that you wanted to no longer provide health care benefits for new state employees when they retire, and also the amount of raises that you were giving to state employees and teachers, especially the teachers, wasn't enough to attract good teachers. Can you kind of put those two together?
Well, on the teachers, 2 and 2, it's much better for the teachers than it is for the state employees or the university, because university and state employees do not have the ability to go home and do collective bargaining and negotiate. Teachers can go home and do collective bargaining and get more money from the local school districts or more benefits.
Or less.
Or less, but normally they haven't gotten less that I know of in the last number of years. So there's an advantage there, but when you really look at it in terms of 2 and 2, the teachers originally, they put out a press release saying they'd like to have 3 and 3. The difference in giving all public employees the way we have to do it, because we do the same for them, is 2 and 2 is $180 million over the biennium, and 3 and 3 is $360 million, so it doubles up. It gets there real fast. On the health care, it's very important to understand that the program I'm talking about does not eliminate the person's ability to go into the hospitalization medical plan. All I'm saying is from everybody that's there now will continue the way it is. People don't even know they have that issue. I haven't talked to anybody that knows they have that ability. You work 18 years for the state, or you work in another school district or a county, and then come to work for the state and work for 1 year. The way the program's written now, you get your hospitalization medical coverage paid for the rest of your life. Now, people are retiring early, some at 50, 55. They're living longer. The chart's now at 80 years for men. And health care costs are going up substantially. That money comes out of our general fund. It's less money for education. I'm saying that, and it's about $500 a month now, and it's going to $586 to almost $600 in the next 2 years. And it's eventually going to be $1,000. And the cost is going to cost you about $500 million over the next 30 years. And I'm only talking about people who've never been here. Everybody else that is there gets to fulfill this promise. Plus, when you retire later on, you can stay in the program. You either have to pay all of it or some of it, and that can be negotiated. My job as a governor is to bring up these kinds of issues so that it doesn't bankrupt a state as time goes on.
Governor, how can you attract good quality teachers when your raise does not keep up with the cost of living, and then you don't give them any retirement health care benefits? We're already having trouble attracting teachers, and you're the education governor.
Well, first of all, teachers didn't have this ability until last session when the legislature put it in, and they're talking about taking it out this year because they didn't fund the money for it, and the local school districts and the counties and the cities had to pay for it. So this is more complex than it looks like. Now,
but how do you get good teachers in here?
Well, first of all, I've interviewed and hired lots of teachers, and I've certainly been responsible for hiring them, and we hire them today. I don't know of one teacher or one person who's come to the state and said, I'm not coming to work for you because you won't pay my hospitalization medical for me for the rest of my life. That is not a known benefit. And so if you have people there, do you want to start saying we're going to keep this obligation for somebody that maybe hasn't even been born yet that's going to come here? We have to start looking how best to put our money. Now, if the legislature looks at it and they say that's not what it is, I've done my job for the taxpayers of the state of Nevada, because taxpayers can't get this, and if that's what they want to end up paying, all right. But I do believe that people, when they retire, whether you're in private sector or the public sector, should have a responsibility to pay at least some of it. Right now, they pay none of it, and some of them can get as high as 137% of what the cost is, and the 37% over the 100 then goes to their dependents. Now, we have to take a look at these kinds of programs if you want to be efficient in government.
We've got about 30 seconds left. There was nowhere in your plan that talked about cleaning up the bank tax or the entertainment tax.
There's been bills that have been introduced on that, and that's going to be a part of the discussion. I've said all along there are some of those that need to be looked at. They're not large. The entertainment tax was going to produce about 26 or 28 million, produced at less than 5 million. There's no rhyme or reason to have a $7,500 tax on a bank in a small rural community that's only got $4 or $5 million in its service oriented, as opposed to somebody that's got $2 billion. Those are the kinds of differences I think will be worked out, and I'm going to support those.
We are out of time, and thank you for that, Governor. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
For a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Ken Dillon, owner of Van Dyne Roofing, can get it fixed with his eyes closed.
Governor Guinn, I noticed that there was no funding for Nevada State College mentioned in the budget.
There's $25 million that's been set aside that we didn't take back of the budget from the estate tax, and I've said to the university, you take all the 25, and if that's your priority, then you can spend it there if you can get the legislature to approve it, and I'll help you. So there's $25 million set aside for that.
Governor,
not just for that, but a number of other things.
Will you fire school principals that do not, where schools don't make annual progress under No Child Left Behind?
I don't know that I can fire them, but I said the other night, when we don't make any progress, we give them all the tools, and we're going to do that under this program, then there must be a change in leadership. And I think that was the loudest clap that we got.
Governor, it's always a pleasure to have you here. We thank you so much, and you can return anytime. We'll be right back. We won't be back on Nevada Newsmakers till tomorrow. We'll join you then with Jim Gibson, Mayor of Henderson.